A single cup of yogurt can carry more living bacteria than there are people on Earth. 10 billion, 50 billion, sometimes over 100 billion microscopic organisms alive, swimming in that white stuff on your spoon. And in the next few minutes, you're going to understand exactly what those bacteria do from the second they hit your mouth to the moment they leave your body 2 days later. Here's the strange part I want you to hold on to. Almost none of them stay. They don't move in, they don't set up permanent residence in your gut, so why does eating yogurt every day still change what's happening down there? Stick with me, because that answer is genuinely weird, and I'm saving it for the end. Start with the place they're headed. Your gut is not an empty tube. It's a packed, humming city of roughly 100 trillion microorganisms, weighing somewhere around 2 to 4 pounds, about the same as your brain. Thousands of different species competing for space and food, most of them living in your large intestine, packed so densely that a single gram of the stuff in your colon contains more bacterial cells than there are stars in the Milky Way. This city was mostly built in your first 3 years of life, and it is fiercely territorial. Which is why the first thing that happens to your yogurt bacteria is a massacre. Your stomach is a vat of hydrochloric acid sitting at a pH between 1.5 and 3.5, acidic enough to strip rust off metal. Most bacteria that enter it simply dissolve, but yogurt cultures have a real advantage. They were born in acid. They spent hours fermenting milk, dropping its pH, adapting to sour conditions before you ever opened the container. And the yogurt itself acts like armor. The thick protein gel and the fat buffer the acid around them, so a meaningful fraction survives the trip that would kill them if you swallowed them alone. But that's not even the most useful thing they're doing, because some of them are working before they get there. Yogurt's two classic cultures, Lactobacillus bulgaricus and Streptococcus thermophilus, carry an enzyme called lactase, the exact enzyme many adults stop producing after childhood, the one that breaks down milk sugar. Those bacteria bring their own. Research has consistently found that people who can't tolerate a glass of milk often handle yogurt with far less trouble because the cultures are digesting the lactose for them, partly in the carton and partly inside them. This is one of the most well-supported findings in the whole field. European authorities considered the evidence strong enough to formally approve the claim. Now the survivors reach your small intestine, and this is where it gets interesting. They don't just pass through like luggage, they're metabolically active, eating, excreting, signaling. As they ferment whatever sugars and fibers they find, they release short-chain fatty acids, small molecules with names like acetate, propionate, and butyrate. Butyrate matters enormously. The cells lining your colon prefer it as fuel over glucose, using it to power that tight, sealed barrier that separates the inside of your gut from your bloodstream. You are feeding your intestinal wall with bacterial waste products, and it is delighted.
Here's where it flips, though. Those bacteria are also walking straight into the largest immune installation in your entire body. Roughly 70% of your immune cells live in and around your gut lining, sampling everything that goes past through specialized patches of tissue. Every passing microbe is inspected. Yogurt cultures appear to be treated as friendly traffic, and studies suggest their presence nudges immune signaling toward a calmer, less inflammatory setting. This is an area still being actively researched, so treat the details as promising rather than settled. But the basic picture, that your gut microbes are in constant conversation with your immune system, is not in dispute. Meanwhile, the resident microbes are reacting. The newcomers compete for nutrients and attachment sites, and they release acids and antimicrobial compounds that make the neighborhood slightly less comfortable for opportunistic species. It's less an invasion than a shove. And that shove is where the daily part starts to matter, because a single cup is a one-day shove, and one day changes almost nothing. Give it 2 weeks of consistency and the picture shifts. Many people notice more predictable digestion. That's often the short-chain fatty acids and the added moisture drawing water into the colon and keeping things moving. There's reasonably good evidence that certain strains, taken daily, shorten bouts of common digestive upset and help the gut recover faster after antibiotics wipe out a chunk of the resident population. Notice the careful wording. Research suggests many people experience. Effects vary between strains and between individuals, and the same yogurt does not do the same thing to every gut. Which brings us back to the question I left hanging. If almost none of these bacteria colonize you permanently, and studies tracking them consistently find they fade out within 1 to 2 weeks of stopping, then what exactly is yogurt doing? Here's the payoff. Think of them not as settlers, but as a delivery service. They arrive, and while they're passing through, they do 3 things. They release enzymes and acids that alter the chemistry of your gut. They feed your existing bacteria and your intestinal cells with fermentation byproducts, and they carry signals to your immune tissue. Then they leave. The effect isn't residency, it's traffic. And a Stanford trial in 2021 showed something striking along these lines. People eating fermented foods daily for 10 weeks saw measurable increases in the diversity of their own resident microbes and drops in inflammatory markers in their blood. The visitors didn't stay, they changed the city anyway. So the reason it has to be every day is simple. The moment the deliveries stop, the effect fades. This is a system with no memory and no storage. And it explains something practical. Heat-treated yogurts have no live cultures at all, so check the label for live and active cultures, and watch the sugar, because a flavored cup can carry as much as a soda, which works directly against everything we just walked through. If you want to keep decoding how your body works, subscribe. This channel exists to make the invisible machinery inside you make sense. Next, watch what happens to your gut when you eat fiber every day, because fiber is the actual food supply for the bacteria we just talked about, and without it, most of what you learned today can't happen. One last thing, and it matters. Everything here is educational content about human physiology, not medical advice. It's not meant to diagnose anything or treat anything. Bodies differ, conditions differ, and if you're thinking about changing your diet or dealing with ongoing digestive symptoms, please talk to a doctor or a qualified professional who can look at your specific situation.